Number 1. The Corner. I was having a really good time when I turned 22 years old. I don't want to give too much information out about my profession, but it is competition-based. I, in fact, had just won my second world championship at age 22, and I was on top of the world. My friends wanted to take me out to celebrate, but they weren't really sure exactly how to do this. While we were chatting, my friends discovered that, although I had turned 21 the previous year, I had never actually been to a sex shop before. In Illinois, you have to be 21 in order to enter one. So, despite the fact that I was a bit nervous about going, they decided that they would take me to one before we went out to eat. The sex shop was a bit fun, but it wasn't really too eventful. We were in a good mood, though. I was in the back seat of my friend's car. Since it was my celebration, they weren't going to make me drive. Now, it's very important to keep in mind that we had just left the sex shop, and we were going out to eat. So, we hadn't had anything to drink, or anything like that yet. But, as we were driving, the most horrifying thing that has ever happened to me transpired. The next part is just hard to describe, and I don't think that I could do the experience any sort of justice. But as we were driving, something hit the front of the car fast and hard, with enough force to bring the car to a jarring halt. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will tell you what happened. The car hit a 16-year-old boy. And although this was unknown to us at the time, the boy was attempting to commit suicide. It was discovered afterwards that he did leave a note, and he jumped out in front of the car. There was no way that it could be avoided, and my friend was not found to be at fault for anything. But it's not just about fault. The fact is that regardless of the intent or lack thereof, someone did die that night, and I'd never make light of that fact. I got home really late that night. Obviously, we did not go out to celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate at that point. I went to my room, I turned out the lights, and I went to bed. As I was laying there trying to sleep, I couldn't fall asleep. After some time, I finally opened my eyes, and something caught my eye. I thought it may have been my imagination at first, but for some reason, the far corner of my room seemed a lot darker than the rest of the room. It was almost as if a shadow were sitting there in the dark, up against the wall. It was weird and unsettling, and I kept watching it, and it didn't go away. And it didn't go away the next night. Only this time, after I turned the lights off, I checked the corner of the room first, and it seemed normal. And then I tried to go to sleep. But as I lay there, trying to doze off, my mind kept wandering back to the shadow I'd seen in the corner. So, knowing that I would never be able to sleep without looking, I looked up in the corner. And there it was again. There was some sort of shadow sitting there in the corner. This became a pattern over the next few weeks. I would check the room before going to bed. I would check the corner after turning out the light, and it would seem normal, like the rest of the room. However, when I laid down to go to sleep, I wouldn't be able to doze off because my curiosity wanted me to look. So, I would open my eyes and look. And there it would be, sitting in the corner of the room, a noticeable, shadowy figure, darker than the rest of the room. This went on for about a whole month after that original night. About a full month afterward, I was going through the process over and over. When I closed my eyes, almost habitually, I knew I had to open my eyes and look, and there it would be again, that shadowy figure sitting in the corner. But on that last night, about a month after the original event, almost immediately after I opened my eyes, the shadowy figure did something it hadn't done before. It moved. It not only moved, it stood up, and it was undoubtedly a human figure standing in the corner. I quickly reached over, flipped the lamp on beside my bed. The shadow remained there in the corner for about 5 seconds, and then it was gone. I never saw it again.
I was in a toxic relationship and stupidly decided to move in with my now ex-boyfriend. Well, I woke up in a dream, I guess, and I saw this tall, dark figure leaning over me. I was so frightened. I couldn't move until he suddenly started to choke me. I fought back and slowly woke up to my boyfriend shaking me, trying to wake me up because he said I was screaming. Well, not long after that, I got pregnant and remained pregnant for about 4 months. I had a miscarriage due to a bad infection and had to be hospitalized. I was so sick from the infection, and the pain from the miscarriage was awful. I had to get an epidural because I felt like I was practically giving birth. Well, anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night. Couldn't really move because of the epidural. I looked to my bedside, and there he was, just looking at me. He had no face, but I could feel him staring at me. He stood there for a minute, then turned around and floated out of the room. I got a feeling that whatever he wanted from me, he got it. Craziest thing that has ever happened to me.
Number 3. A walk to the store. I have never told anyone this story before, but it is a true story, and it did happen to me. I am a 33-year-old male, and I love horror movies. They never really scare me, though. I don't scare very easily. I live in a city in West Texas. In the general area, the crime rate was not too bad, and it really depended upon what area of the city you lived in. My area was pretty okay, though. Since it was relatively safe, sometimes late at night, around 1 a.m. or so, I tend to walk down to the local 7-Eleven for one of those big drinks and something to munch on. I only live a few blocks away from the 7-Eleven, so it's not that bad of a walk. One night, which is a night I will never forget. As I was walking to the store for my drink and stuff, something happened. Now, the walk to the store takes me by a few houses and a few other stores, and nothing bad has ever happened to me before while walking. I just buy my drink and my snacks and I leave. The other stores that I passed by on the way to the 7-Eleven were already closed. They closed at 10, and the 7-Eleven was open until 1 a.m. On this night, as I was walking home from the 7-Eleven, I passed one of the closed stores, and I noticed something across the street from the store. Right across the street was a small parking lot. In the parking lot was a wooden telephone pole. It was something by the telephone pole that caught my eye. It was a shadow. At first, I just thought it was the shadow of the telephone pole because there was a street light on the other side of the pole. So, I thought nothing much of it at first. But then, I noticed the shadow begin moving by itself, and I realized that must have been why it caught my eye in the first place. I just thought maybe I was seeing a person or something. However, when I gave my full attention to the shadow, I noticed that it was not touching the ground. Not only was it not touching the ground, but the shape wasn't really the shape of a human, and it wasn't the shape of a lamp pole. It was dark and floating right there by the lamp post, and it was not making any noise. The only way I could think of to describe it is, if you've seen the movie Ghost, at the end of the movie, these shadows come out of the ground, and they grab the killer after he died, and drag him away screaming. That is exactly what it looked like. And of course, I got scared. Scared as shit. I stopped walking. I didn't want to stop, I just wanted to walk home, but I was scared. So I closed my eyes, and I said a little prayer to myself. And I waited with my eyes closed. I'm not sure how long I waited with my eyes closed, but I waited. And then I opened my eyes, and the shadow was gone. With a sigh of relief, I continued on the way home. I told my mom what I saw, and she told me it could have been a spirit since it was dark out, or maybe a portal or something. I really don't know. I do still go to the 7-Eleven for snacks, and fortunately, I've never seen this shadow again.
I come from a family of clairvoyants, psychics, and mediums, so I don't get overly fazed by ghost stories, because I've heard and experienced some pretty unexplainable stuff. Story number 1. My mom and dad have both told me their sides of the story, and this is a combination of the two. My mom and dad were watching a TV British television show called Most Haunted, and me being the 3-year-old I was sleeping on the couch next to them. One of the in-house clairvoyants was talking about how he felt the energy of a young child who was sad. At that moment, I sat up, turned to my mom, and said, "Mom, can you give Alex his ball back?" She turned to me and looked me dead in the eyes, with both fear and confusion. She then turned to my dad, who was sitting in the same state. When he gave her a nod and told her to just listen to me, She asked me, "Where's Alex's ball?" And I pointed over to the fireplace near the couch. She once again turned to my dad, and he just gave her a nod. She stood up and picked up the ball. She then asked me, "Where is Alex?" I then pointed to the far corner of the room, next to the entrance to our kitchen, next to the entrance to our living room. My mom, for a final time, looked at my dad, and he just gave her a nod. She walked over to the corner and gave the ball to Alex. I then said, "Thank you, Mommy," and fell back asleep. My mom sat back down in complete confusion to the prior events. Then the clairvoyant on the TV came back on, and he said the child, a boy, Alexander, he lost his toy, but he found it. He is happy again. Or something along those lines. Both my parents sat there with their jaws in their laps, paralyzed with confusion and fear of their child. I remember nothing of the events. Story 2. This is not so much of a story, more of a compilation of experiences. My dad was a clairvoyant, and he always said that there were a few ghosts that lived in our house. The house I still currently live in. Among the cats and the short, happy man skipping around in love and rejoicing, there was the bitch, as he so affectionately called her. We know nothing more about her except for the fact that I have seen her on multiple occasions. When I'm climbing the stairs, I sometimes see a woman with a tight bun haircut standing at the end of the narrow hallway leading to our kitchen, which leads into our entrance. And the few times I have seen her standing directly in front of my window when I'm walking to the house, kind of like the scenes from The Woman in Black. Now, I know that it is not possible for someone to stand in front of the window, because I have a TV stand directly in front of my window that is pushed up against my radiator, making it impossible to stand in front of the window or move the heavy table in time for someone to stand there. The only other place where these experiences happen is on my staircase. Often we will be pushed down our stairs. You can feel yourself being lifted off the step and thrown down the stairs. You often land at the bottom without touching any other steps. My mom was pushed on our stairs, and she fell with such a force that her knee gave out, and she tore stuff and things. I don't know what exactly broke or tore. I have seen my sister's feet clearly come out from under her, almost as if someone cuts off her feet from the ankle, and she just falls. My best friend Duncan has experienced a very nasty fall on my stairs, making him quite severely go over his ankle to the point of which we thought it was broken. I personally have felt my entire body weight being pushed against the wall, making me fall over, and I have been picked up and thrown, landed on the bottom step of our stairs. So the name my dad gave her is quite reasonable. My dad refuses to go upstairs because of her. He was legitimately afraid of her. I will probably be pushed down the stairs sometime soon.
Hey everyone, Killer Orange Cat here. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you'd like to be informed of the release of new Killer Orange Cat videos, please hit the button next to the tabby to subscribe. I'd like to thank HeroToVillain for helping me out with this collaboration. He will be posting a second half of it, which will have 2 stories from him and 2 new stories from me. Please make sure to visit his channel, not only to see the video, but also to subscribe for his future content. I really hope you enjoy these stories. I know I've had a few paranormal videos out lately, and I don't want anyone to think this is going to be a trend. I really plan on keeping my content as diverse as possible. Right now, it just worked out that I got a lot of paranormal submissions. I definitely am not going all Destination America and becoming a paranormal channel. I found another pulp story that I think you guys will like, so that will be out soon. Plus, I should have my usual 2-story compilations. In the meantime, make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a killer orange cat might be hiding. Good night.